Hi, I'm Annika Johnson from Al Johnson's in Sister Bay. I hope you enjoy my new video series called Door County Girl. These are stories of my life, the people and places that I love, and of course how we all survive here in northern Wisconsin. You can come back as often as you like, but don't forget to subscribe to Al's YouTube channel. I'll be posting lots of really cool new videos. So let's go. Welcome to another episode of Door County Girl. Today I'm in one of, I can see it's going to be one of my favorite things. It's all about history with Cody Schreck, and he's at the Ephraim Historical Foundation, and we're right across the street from the Anderson Dock.
Yes.
And there's so much to learn about this place. I don't even want to ask questions unless I jump in, because you just need to kind of let me know.
Yeah.
Kind of like, who are you? Where did you get interested in this? Because to me, I'm old and I love history, but it took me a while to love history. But you're so young. I'm like thinking a young guy. How in the world did you get involved with the love of history?
Yeah. So again, I'm Cody Schreck, the curator collections manager at the Ephraim Historical Foundation. I've been here for just over a year, since February 2021. Interest in history, that's tough. I grew up around the Milwaukee area, so growing up I had access to a lot of really cool museums. Going to places like the Milwaukee Public Museum on field trips kind of inspired my love for museums. Grew up on a family home, lake home, in Lake Country outside of Milwaukee that was from the 1880s. So always around history, always talking to family about history. Just kind of.
Did your family instill it in you, or did you just have this love of it?
It was a mix of both. I mean, growing up around like my grandmother who owned the lake home, she's always telling stories about how her mom and dad were there, her grandparents were there, and then, just connection to family that way. But then just being around old buildings a lot and old properties, playing in the backyard and seeing an old carriage house or something like that, you become interested in stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, keep on going. This is awesome.
I'm trying, yeah.
I mean, when you did you go to college to get this sort of job? I mean,
Yes.
Did you have to learn? Because you're so knowledgeable. We were walking around earlier, and you just know everything. You're like, temperature control, this control.
Yeah.
This has got to be handled with gloves. This is a fluorescent light thing, or I don't
Right.
know all these terms, but I think it's real cool that you are so knowledgeable in these things.
Yeah, so I went to undergrad and graduate school at UW-Milwaukee.
Okay.
I got my undergraduate degree in just general history. And then because I should say, I initially wanted to be a social studies teacher. Had a deep interest in history, thought being a social studies teacher would be fun. But then I looked deeper into the museum field and found that would probably be a better way for me to have an impact, to share history with people. So I did a graduate program for what's called public history. So in some colleges, they do academic history and public history. Academic being when you write for papers, you work at a university. Public history is much more public-facing. You work at museums, you make things that the public can interpret. So I got a degree in museum studies, which talks about things like how to care for objects, what kind of temperature they need to be stored at, humidity, how you handle them, and then the other fun part, which is how you interpret them, how you build exhibits, how you make that fun for the public and the community.
So digitalizing things and cataloging and
Absolutely.
Trying to preserve these relics, because they, through time, are going to disappear if you don't somehow keep them preserved.
Yeah. So everything that's organic is going to deteriorate, but the goal of someone in a museum is to prolong that as long as possible. So hopefully the things that we're preserving now will be here for hundreds of years after I'm gone.
So what got your eye? Okay, so did you work in Milwaukee at any of the museums? Did you ever work at the downtown one, or? Yeah,
so I actually did, while I was in grad school, I tried to get as much experience as possible while I was in grad school. So I worked the majority of the time at the Milwaukee County Historical Society, which is a similar institution, much larger obviously, but does similar things, serves the local community in their history. Also worked at the Milwaukee Art Museum. I worked in their pre-1900 European art collection, so that was fantastic because I'm certainly not an art person, but it gave me great background in how to care for art and just another view of museums. And I also worked at the Milwaukee Public Museum in the accessibility department, which was very unique because it gives you a good angle of how people, no matter, you know, their abilities or what language they speak, how they experience museums and how you can best, you know, make museums accessible to everyone.
Sure, and get kids more involved so they can be interested in it. It's
Right.
not boring, you know, it's really cool.
Yeah, finding fun things that everyone can do. Right?
Yeah, like one of my favorite things at the Milwaukee Museum, what's downtown that we'd go to, is when you go down where the old German villages are.
Yes.
It's kind of dark and it's got the cobblestone streets and you walk around and it's
Yeah.
so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine why a kid would not love that, you know. It's,
Yeah, the streets of Old Milwaukee. That's at the Milwaukee Museum.
yeah.
So that was a big thing with accessibility. There is talking about how people experience it. So kids love it, but when you talk about people who might have autism or have sight issues or dementia, the change in surface that you walk on, the low
Sure.
lights, it's a different experience for people that.
Wow, you have to think about those
Exactly,
things. I would
yes.
never think about those things.
Right. So yeah, it's called universal design. Is designing exhibitions that everyone can enjoy and thinking about those
Sure.
very fine details. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so that's
I
what people are
love
trying to do nowadays in museums. It's fun.
that. Oh, did I read something about the Milwaukee Museum? Are they moving it? Are
Yeah, they are moving
Where are they moving to?
right next to the new Bucks Arena.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
so
was
they're
just
getting
there
a-
last night.
You were. They're getting a
Bucks
brand.
lost,
they
but
did.
it was still a very neat area down there.
Oh yeah, it's a revitalized area for sure. Yeah, so they're taking their whole collection and moving it to a brand new building.
Oh, good. I can't wait. I mean, I like the old one, but I mean, and new is good too.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite. I mean, it's going to be a big move because museums in general. You've been to Milwaukee Public Museum, giant, lots of stuff to see. In general, museums don't show more than 5% of their collection at one time.
Oh, wow.
So you think of all the things you see at a big museum, 95% of what they own you're not seeing.
Well, it's kind of good that they kind of rotated in because then you have another excuse to go back to the museum.
Correct.
So you can go see another exhibit or another exhibit or
Right.
another. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's important to yourself that we care about history? Like why should we care?
Well, I mean, to be very
I know
simple.
why I care, but like why do you think people should in general want to know about history, and especially us that live up here? Like why is it important for you, do you think, that they should know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, to be very brief about it, you know, history is the story of the present moment. You know, it's the story of us. It's how we got to this moment. A million different story threads coming into one, essentially. But also, I'm also a big proponent of understanding place, geography and history combined. So as you're walking down the street, you know, you see a building, beautiful building, understanding the context of how that building was built, the stories of the people that were there, and it gives you a much better appreciation for the present moment, for what you're experiencing in the moment. So I think Door County is just packed with those
With
opportunities.
things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when there's a couple historical society, like foundations or societies up here, like Sister Bay has one, I think this is one, that Fish Creek must have one.
Yep, Gibraltar Historical
Egg
Association.
Harbor must have one.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so are you all on your own, or do you guys all kind of work together as a group? Are you forming some sort of alliance? Or?
Yes, that's a great question. So yeah, so each group operates independently. I think all the small historical societies and museums are their own separate 501c3 nonprofits.
Because money is always an issue, right?
Especially for nonprofits, right? And historical nonprofits. But we do work together as much as possible. So we have formed, excuse me, the Heritage Alliance of Door County, which is actually something that's been, it's been around for a while through varying degrees of participation, but right now it seems like there's a lot of push behind it. So right now we're working together throughout the county to create programming with each other, to bounce ideas off each other. So yeah, we do great things individually, but when we can collaborate, we can really bring history to the people a lot better.
Well, I love history, but I just know that I think that sometimes when you tell someone, or if I stop in here and I want to look around, some people are like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah.
So like looking at books or looking at
Right.
those stupid pictures. But to me, it's fascinating. But I think as I get older, it's more fascinating.
Yeah.
But my son would take little field trips from Gibraltar over here to what on the bluff there?
The Pioneer Schoolhouse, probably.
Yes, and then there was one next door. Oh, terrible. He went there, but I didn't.
I was gonna say so the Ephraim
There's supposed
Historical
to be like
Foundation.
a haunted house. that
Oh,
he's
that's
like,
funny.
Oh yeah, he was so obsessed with it. Mom, we have to go back. It's the best thing ever. And I couldn't believe he said that.
Well, yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, people.
He was little, and
Well,
I was,
right, yeah.
and his other friends were like, it was the most boring trip ever. I was like, I don't want to go. One day, this guy called me up. That was Bo's best friend's dad, and said, "Hey, can Bo come over today?" And I'm like, "No, school. He's got to go to school."
Right, yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, but they're only going on a field trip to Heritage Hill in Green Bay. That's stinking boring. Why don't you just let him come over here and play and skip school today?" I'm like, "Oh my God, no, Bo wants to go to the Heritage Museum. He wants to go see what that."
Yeah, so, for Bo, he loved certain aspects of what we were doing here or at the Heritage Hill. Other people find different ways to love history. So we try to find different opportunities to reach people in different ways. So we do, at the Ephraim Historical Foundation, we own several historic buildings throughout the village, and we do regular tours, which you kind of just walk up for free, and we'll walk you around the building. We do tours where you can come to our main location. We'll drive you around on a tram, which is essentially like a long golf cart, and we'll drive you around town and give you kind of a talk of the town. And just last year, I started history kayak tours. So in the middle of summer, we'll go off South Shore Pier in Ephraim, and I will kayak you around Eagle Harbor and show you all the fun history from the water.
Look at all this stuff we can do here.
Yeah, correct.
I'm to get some days off.
And we tell different histories on all the tours. I mean, we can't tell the history from the water while we're sitting in a historic house and vice versa. So you get...
Do you kayak out to Horseshoe Island and around Eagle Bluff? Or?
We try to keep that kayak tour to about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And when you're on the water, especially in a kayak, Eagle Harbor is a lot bigger than it seems.
Yeah.
So we try to go from South Shore Pier across to the park side and up the shoreline to the bluff and then back to Anderson Dock.
Okay.
But there's been one or two times where we've had a small group of pretty able-bodied kayakers where we've gone out to Horseshoe Island and hiked around. So that's been fun.
Well, you guys don't know this, but when we got here, John Nelson and I were walking around with you waiting for Bill, and we went into the barn, and there was a really cool old barn that you guys refurbished. This whole building in itself is beautiful. I've always admired it when you were building it. First time I've ever been in it, hate to say, even though I love history. But going into the old barn and you showing us where the horses were gnawing on the logs and things like that, you can almost envision like what it must have looked like back then. I have an old barn too, but I mean yours is even like older.
Right, yeah.
And just all the photos. You have all these old photos on the wall. I just get engrossed in them.
Yeah.
We walked into the barn and you have this wall size photo of a big boat pulling up to Anderson Dock. And I'm thinking there were more people coming back then than there were sometimes now.
It seems like it, yeah.
And they're all coming off this big cruise ship and they're fine duds, and where are they going?
Right, and that's, I think that's fascinating.
There wasn't a lot here. Where are they going?
Exactly, yeah, I think that's fascinating to think about. I mean, the continuity of history is, Door County is known as a tourist destination today. Back in the 1910s, still thought of as a tourist destination, but experienced from a different angle. So those steamships would bring people in from Chicago, and they'd come in through the Sturgeon Bay Ship Canal and pop into, Egg Harbor, and then Fish Creek, and then Ephraim, and then they'd hop off of this big steamship up at Anderson Dock, and then they'd go to their hotel in Ephraim and all-inclusive stay. They'd get their meals there. They'd do little excursions. Some families would stay all summer. There's stories of wealthy families who the wife and children would stay up here all summer, and the husband would go back to Chicago and work and take the train up to Sturgeon Bay on the weekends.
I'm staying.
Yeah. But it's very common, and it's just... Yeah, Door County has been a place where tourists have come for a long time.
Just how people feel now. They want to come up here and vacation all summer, and then they have to go back,
they can
and
take
get their
their own cars
vacation
now,
home.
Yeah.
So how come we don't see big ships pulling in like that anymore? Like, why wouldn't there be a draw for that? I don't understand that. Like, back then they did it. What would be the reason why they wouldn't come up again? I mean...
So to my knowledge, Anderson Dock is still a deep water dock, which means it can handle ships with relatively large hulls.
Yeah, I'm shocked when I see the photos.
I think part of it has to do mainly with just the culture of tourism today. It's very individual vehicle based. At the time that the steamships were coming, the roads in Door County were not ones that were viable for a lot of traffic, nor did a lot of people have access to nice cars. So nowadays, even lower socioeconomic families can take cars up here at their leisure, where back in the day, you had people, really the only way to get up here was buying a ticket on the steamship. So you see a different way of people getting up here.
I think you should bring back that old steamship and do little tours for Ephraim and take them around in your little golf cart.
Have the SS Badger come up,
That'd be, I would go.
Right.
So we were upstairs a little bit in this building, and when we were walking from the other building to this building, there was a little sign on the door outside.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's the Svalhus?
Oh, the Svalhus.
Svalhus.
Yeah, so that's the name of this building, is the Svalhus. It's Norwegian for cooling house. So this building was built around 1890. It was built.
It's the perfect size, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the little living room with this gorgeous fireplace, kitchen in the back, a bathroom, and a nice little sleeping area
Lofted,
upstairs.
yeah.
Perfect size.
Yeah, so it would have been used in summer. It gets the name cooling house because the construction itself would have made it so it stayed cold or cooler in the warmer months.
So on hot days, people would just come hang out in here.
Yeah, kind of like a breeze house. Yeah, essentially.
And there was a screened-in porch on the front. People could just hang out. And
yeah, they would spend a lot of their time, cooling down. Yeah.
That is crazy. Well, we went upstairs, and you have a lot of really neat old pictures, and you showed us the oldest collection piece that you have.
Oh, yeah, I did, yes.
I didn't take a picture of it, but it's a German book.
Yeah, so we have a book that was published in 1751 in German about the Moravian Church, essentially because Ephraim has such deep Moravian ties. We do collect things somewhat related to the Moravian Church, and this one is one of them. So it's a very old, very rudimentary looking book, but it's beautifully printed.
Yes, and they were like talking about not wanting the Moravian Church to be here?
So this was actually printed in Germany for the Moravian Church while it was still in Germany.
Okay.
There was just some disagreements within the church happening. It was kind of a rift in how they believe things should be happening in the church. But it's a fascinating book. I can't read it. We have actually, my predecessors here at the foundation have sent it out to universities for them to transcribe. So we have partial transcriptions.
Yes, because you'll be getting, so you get your collections from people who donate here.
Correct. We do not purchase anything.
Right.
We survive. I mean, most of the historical foundations, historical societies up here are alive because of the generosity of donors.
Right, and there's like families. You could come in here. There's the Knutson family, the Hoganson family, the Nelson family. You can open it up and see if you're related to anyone,
Right, yeah.
or am I related? I mean, I just talked to a lady that I've known forever in there, and I said that we were related to Anita Ekberg, and her husband's related to Anita Ekberg.
Yes.
It's like, well, I think we might be related.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, the purpose of the building we're in now is a research library. So people can come here to do genealogy research, business research. If they want to see a piece from our collection, we can bring it out for them. They just have to make an appointment. So
you make an appointment, and then you help them. Because what if someone's like me that comes in here and doesn't even know where to start? It's like overwhelming.
Yeah, so say you were fascinated by maritime history in Ephraim. You could give me a call and say, hey, I want to study the ships that used to come into Ephraim. What I would do is I would search our collection through our database, pull everything I thought that was relevant, and I would bring it out on this table in front of you. So when you got here, I would be here with you and kind of helping you do the research.
That's so amazing.
Oh, yeah, and that's really part of our mission, is making history accessible to people. A lot of people think that we put things in storage and let it just sit. But that's not what we want to do. We want to preserve them by keeping them in storage. But when people are interested, we want to take it out and give it access to people.
And upstairs, he has boxes and boxes of things that he still has to go through. And
Oh, yeah.
There's like picture albums, photo albums of all. I saw one of Horseshoe Island.
Yep.
And there was a mansion out there, and people would go there and live there for the summer. And you told me a little interesting tidbit about that.
Oh, there is a mass grave on Horseshoe Island. Is that what you're
Yes,
referring
because
to?
I have been walking around out there before, and I can see like remnants of buildings.
Yep.
But I don't think I've ever seen a stone.
Yeah, so if you hike the island, which be careful because there's a lot of poison ivy and ticks out on the island.
Yeah.
Towards the middle of the island, there is a small stone that was erected by the Ephraim Men's Club, I want to say back maybe in the 60s, to commemorate what is a mass grave on the island. Back in the 1860s, a group of Scandinavian immigrants had come first to the island because they were going to set up shop here in Ephraim and build homes. But when they got to the island, it was found that they had Asiatic cholera, which is a waterborne disease, and unfortunately at least 7 died. And they really couldn't do much with the bodies. They, of course, didn't want to expose others to the cholera.
Right.
So they buried these individuals on the island, and there's no exact known location where the bodies are, but there's an approximate location, and that's where that stone is on the island.
Wow.
Yep.
So when you visit Horseshoe Island, people, it's almost like a little cemetery.
Correct.
You can pay your respects to these people. This is pretty interesting. I like that tidbit.
Yeah.
A little bit about this place and Anderson Dock, and I mean, so a man, I walked into one of your conference rooms and there was a big picture of a man standing there.
Yeah,
So I said, who's that guy? And
Yeah.
he is Mr. Anderson.
So that was Adolf Anderson. We have like a life-size cutout of Adolf Anderson, who was Aslak Anderson's son.
Right.
Aslak Anderson is the one who built the dock. He's the one who built the general store. Adolf was his son who...
And Aslak is Norwegian, right?
Correct. Him and his brother Halvor came from Norway, and they actually first settled in the Upper Peninsula, but then were invited to move here to actually build the dock because they were such good carpenters.
So across the street, which everybody must know by now that comes to Door County, Anderson Dock has a building over there that boats usually put their boat names on
Yes.
there. How did that get started? How did people start writing all over that building?
Right. So today my office looks down on Anderson
Yeah, you
Dock,
guys
which is
have,
fantastic.
their office, all of the offices has this view of Eagle Bluff and
Yeah.
Ephraim Bay. It's really nice.
Yeah, so you'll see, families, young couples, a bunch of people. Some will bring ladders, writing
Yes.
their names.
I've seen wedding people out
Right.
there. Right,
Yeah. So the tradition does start. You kind of alluded to it. Was back in the mid 1900s, early 1900s. You had small leisure crafts like sailboats or other boats that they would dock at Anderson Dock, and when they got out, they would write the name of their boat and the year or date that they were docking on the side. And it, became a tradition year after year. People will keep doing it. And it's evolved now to where, if you're a tourist just coming to visit, you do the same thing. You're just writing your name. Yeah.
It's good to know that because I feel like people just go over there and think, oh, that's just where you write your name on the building.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a graffiti on a wall if
Yeah.
you're going like to a subway, It's
Yeah,
like, no,
right,
that's
right.
really not that. It had something historical about it.
Right.
And then we were chatting up there a little bit, and someone said something about the dock or the building. It's a little controversial right now about what you're going to use it for. Right now, the Hardy Gallery's in there.
Yeah, yeah.
You can go in there and look at beautiful artwork from local artists.
Yeah.
But the future of the Anderson Dock is sort of in play.
Yeah, so we're not super involved with it.
But you have your opinions.
Yeah, individuals have their opinions for sure. Yeah, the Ephraim Historical Foundation was a part of the group back in the 50s who helped make sure that it was renovated and put on the register.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it was the 1980s, the dock and the complex here actually that we're sitting in, the Anderson Barn, the home across the street, the dock, the general store, and a few of the outbuildings there were added to both the state registry and the national registry. So those are all historic places. But as far as village meetings goes, is the outcome of the gallery and the dock. As a foundation, we don't really have a horse in the race.
You
so
don't
to
really
speak.
get to say, but
Yeah.
you have your opinions, and right now they're talking about maybe using it for events.
Yeah, I think the conversations at the village, from what I've heard of, the best use for the building,
Right,
and of course
make some money or on.
possibly, yeah, and of course as employees of the historical foundation.
Yeah,
who's-
everything grows and changes, and just it's hard
Yeah.
hard to swallow sometimes, but yeah.
And we're of course, like I said, as employees of the foundation, our central mission is preservation, so we're always going to advocate for preserving historic buildings as best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rah, rah. I'm rah.
we try. Yeah.
Also, I noticed, what was my other question I was going to ask you? Oh, upstairs you had all kinds of boxes of letters and things that, so if you can't read the languages, do you have experts come in to say, oh, I know how to read Norwegian, or I can speak that old
Yeah.
German dialect?
Right.
Or how do you decipher these?
So that was definitely the old ways. You'd have to bring in an expert. Now we have the added benefit of digitization, which I can take a high quality scan and send it to a contact, whether it's at most likely at a university within the state.
So there is someone out there that will be able to
Yes,
look
academics love that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny because when I'm working at Al's, people will come in every now and then with an old letter, and they want to know what it says because it's in
assume that-
Norwegian.
yeah.
But and I'm looking at it, and Norwegian and Swedish are a little similar, and I know a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden they said, no, it's not Norwegian, it's Swedish, and I'm looking at it and looking at it. I could not decipher it. I mean, I see a couple things, but then I brought it to my friend Gunilla Wilson, who Wilsons have a lot to do here in
Yep.
Ephraim. And she said, oh, it's old Swedish. They don't speak that way anymore. It's
Right,
like
that's
super
part of the
old.
trouble. Yeah.
So I could not make heads or tails of what they were
Yeah.
even trying to talk about. She even struggled, a little bit. You can't just slowly read it and
Right. Yeah,
And
I mean, old handwriting is beautiful, and because of what I do for a living, I've gotten good at reading, old handwriting.
Oh, my mom
but
has
even,
fabulous handwriting.
right, but
yeah.
even with some of the old dialect in English too, that gets written in cursive in the way that people used to write, even their S's that look like F's, things like that. Learning to read even English can be tough.
That is, yeah. And then with all the pictures I saw and the photo albums and things like that, what you digitalize them?
Yes, so that requires digitization is a very high intensive it's a very intensive project to do. Digitizing
Can
something.
anyone do it, or is it just specifically museums that do it?
So certainly, I mean, if you have a family collection at your home, digitizing is a great idea.
Because it could get lost otherwise.
Could get lost. It's a great way to see, if you have a really good scanner, a great way to see fine details in something. We try to digitize as much as we can, but because of the time it takes, sometimes some things aren't digitized. We have a lot of things here that aren't digitized. We'd love to get them digitized someday. Host them on our website so people can access them remotely. Our collection, and that's something we work towards. There's a lot of museums are working towards digitizing their collection, but it does take a while. But it's very cool when it's done.
Yeah. And even when it takes a while, there's so much to look at, so it can't get boring.
No, I mean, when I started last year, the fastest way for me to learn Ephraim history was to be up in the collection looking at things.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know I would be up there asking a million questions, and there's another book, and there's another book.
Right,
And
yeah.
the Appleport School. My brother went to school there. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I remember that merry-go-round there. That was
Yeah.
crazy. But so many things change. I was just driving by last night coming home from the Bucks game, and it was like 3 a.m, and I'm driving with my friend that I work with, and I said, he talked about all those big, where the Sister Bay School used to be, now they built those big townhome condo things. And I said, yeah, I used to go to school right there. And he goes, there was a school there? And I said, yeah, there was a school there, and they tore it down. And right before they tore it down, the person who was going to tear down the building knew about my son passed away. And in the window of the building, they must have gone up there to play, when they were running around town. And he had written his name in the dirty window. It said Bo, and then Ernie, and then I think Andrew Eiting, and then they had these like little weird faces. And then the guy took the window out and gave it to me.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
I actually have this dirty window with their names written in it, and I have it sitting
hilarious.
in one of my outbuildings that I collect things too, but I mean, I'm not like this.
Yeah, many people find that they have collections similar to a small museum. I mean, I've become the repository for my family's history.
Oh yeah, like my brother Rolf, he's a hoarder. He hoards everything. He just cannot throw something away.
Right.
And not that he's ever going to want it in the future or no one else wants it, but he just can't. It's just too cool. He remembers, we had an old French fry pan in the restaurant that with the fries go in, where we take the tongs and put it on our sandwiches. I mean, the thing looked like it had been run over by a Mack truck and then bent back again, and then run over by a train and bent back again. There were holes in it, and he would not get rid of that French fry pan
Sentimental.
because it was there forever.
Yeah.
And same in the restaurant, the cooler behind the counter, that was back when Orrin Hansen had the store. So
it's interesting.
We have to fix it all the time because it's always broken.
Right, that's what you were saying.
But we don't get rid of it.
No.
Because it's history.
A lot of sentimental value with that kind of stuff too, yeah.
Is there anything you want us to know about, like upcoming events here, or fun things that people can come here and do? And when is are you open every day? I mean, give us a little bit of, so how do we get a hold of you, and what do we do here? And,
Yeah, so I mean, our open season usually runs from Fairball weekend, which is the middle of June, until about mid to late October. Throughout that time, I mentioned we have those tram tours and those kayak tours, and those happen sporadically throughout the week.
And how do they sign up for that?
The website's the best way, so www.ephraim.org.
Okay.
It's the best way to do that. We also have social media, so Facebook and Instagram is a good way to find us. Like I said, we do the kayak tours, the tram tours, we do walking tours. We do a feature exhibit every year that changes out in the Anderson Barn. So this year will be about the shipwrecks of Eagle Harbor. So if you have an interest in, Ephraim and the maritime history of Ephraim, or shipwrecks in general, that'll be there. We have a pretty robust programming schedule that we do. Usually try to tie it a little bit to what's happening in the exhibit. So we have a shanty group coming to Ephraim this year to do a singing thing at downtown Ephraim. We also have the Sea Grant Institute talking about shipwrecks. We have a lot of stuff.
Oh,
concerts,
busy summer coming up.
lectures,
I love
all that
it.
kind of stuff. But the best way to find out about it is through social media or website.
Okay, and they need to make reservations and things like that to get on
Depends
these
on the
tours
program.
and-
Yeah.
Okay.
But I should say too, I mean, aside
Don't just show up and think you're going to hop on a kayak. You gotta plan ahead.
Right. Yeah. So our tram tours and our walking tours are $5 a person. Access to our museums are free. We do not charge to get into the museums.
But they have a donation jar, so
We
make
do.
sure you donate.
Yes.
Every little bit helps when you have a foundation.
We
You can
do
just-
appreciate any and all donations.
Yeah, and if anyone out there has a history of families in here in Ephraim, they
Give me
could
a
reach
call.
out to you. I
Give
mean,
me
this
a
would be
call.
awesome, and
Yeah.
they could get all their family history in order and learn a little more.
Yeah, and like I was telling you and John, I mean, we have a pretty robust oral history collection too that's been started since even the 1980s.
Yeah, by our friend Paul Burton.
Paul Burton, who wrote many books about Door County history and contributed an immense amount to this organization, did a lot of oral histories, and we've continued that. I myself have done 2 in the last year. So if people are interested in seeing and hearing primary source history, we have it here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the alliance that we talked about a little earlier about the groups getting together?
Yeah. So the Heritage Alliance of Door County, as I mentioned, is it's got a real push behind it right now because we're all working on a project called Door County History Days. It's never been done before here in Door County. The goal of this the project really is for all of our groups to get together throughout Door County and put on a week-long event where we promote the individual organizations, and then we try to have programming. We try to encourage people to come visit these sites. It was really inspired by something that John had mentioned, of course, from Sister Bay. He thought it'd be a great idea to get these groups together to promote what we're doing. And then me coming from Milwaukee, I had experience with a project called Milwaukee Museum Week, which does something similar, where all the museums get together and they put on this specialty week of promoting, the importance of individual organizations and local history and what these places do to kind of make Door County what it is and help increase the cultural value of where we are.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's valuable because you can't do it alone.
No, certainly not.
You are all driven by donations and you are all driven loving history, so you need to somehow come together and create a want for that, or people want to see more. They want to know more.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I think a lot of people come to Door County because it has a very unique culture to it, and we are the keepers of that culture. We're the ones who make sure that the stories get preserved, and I think each of the individual organizations, and especially collaboratively, they really allow people to have direct access to that unique culture in Door County.
The history days that they're going to put together, did you mention when it was going to be?
So it's going to be June 20th to the 26th.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening.
Tell us a little bit what's going to be happening.
Right, so we're going to try to have a launch event where we invite, media and stakeholders where, I'll give a word about History Days and its importance, and hopefully have representatives from the State Historical Society who have been helping us on this kind of talk about the importance of Door County's history and events like this, but also individual organizations putting on programs for History Days. So here at the Ephraim Historical Foundation, I'll be doing a special curator's tour tied to the exhibit. We also have an author talk with someone who wrote a book about maritime history. I know Sister Bay Historical Society is doing a talk about bundas.
Oh yeah, bundas.
Yeah.
We all shopped at bundas, even
And
me.
then, right, yeah, and then I think...
And we still do. It's on deck.
Oh, right, yes, yeah. But I think, and this, of course, we want to have all of the counties, so we have the Belgian Heritage Center down in Southern Door. They're doing events. The Maritime Museum being a big linchpin for organizations in the county, they'll be involved. A lot of stuff happening.
So sometimes people forget that Sturgeon Bay is part of Door County.
Even
it's
south,
further
yeah.
away a little bit, but I mean they're all together. I mean Sturgeon Bay is Door County, and there's a lot of history in Sturgeon Bay. I did a Door County episode with the Maritime Museum and Sam Perlman, and learned so much.
Oh, there's a lot of good stuff.
Oh my God, that building's going to be amazing when it's done. So
yeah, I've seen a few of the
there's
floors.
There's just so much to learn in Door County, and that is part of it. Sturgeon Bay and the little schoolhouse, the little over by Crossroads.
Yep. Yeah.
That whole little area there we kind of went to, and it was cold and not open yet, but I can see that envisionment of wanting to get the word out there. So it's not just north of Sturgeon Bay, it is Sturgeon Bay inclusive.
And that's one of the goals with History Days, is to is to help reiterate, that Door County is the whole county. We have history on every corner, and a very deep history. I mean, there's archaeological sites in Sturgeon Bay that go back to, when the glaciers were still here.
Yeah.
And we have, French fur trade history. We have recent history. We have a lot of very interesting history here, and a lot of very cool, unique organizations sharing that history.
Okay, and then we have a lot of the publicity then, so people will know a little bit about the upcoming event, and then we can check it out, like, oh, I really want to see that, and I really want to see that, and you can kind of line it up. Yeah,
we've got a few different avenues we're doing for marketing-wise. We're, of course, working very closely with Destination Door County, which, of course, is a great asset. We're also, I didn't mention this, we're launching a thing called the Heritage Map during Door County History Days, which is going to be a nice little pamphlet that, anyone can pick up and learn about places where they can learn about Door County history. But yeah, we'll be promoting the Heritage Map. Destination Door County will be helping us, and we'll also be doing our own kind of social media push through all of our organizations. So hopefully the plan is that if you are planning to come to Door County, if you're in Door County during that time, you're going to see it. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I can't wait. That's going to be fun.
It'll be fun. It's the first one. So
yay, first one. Everybody be there, because you'll say, in the future, I was at the very first History Week in Door County.
And then,
that's going to be history one day.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I think that you have an amazing job. I would get lost in a rabbit hole here. I would be upstairs in a nook somewhere in a corner looking through things. It's really neat.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to be here. It's fun.
Thank you for joining me. This is very interesting. I got to look around a little bit, and I love it. So everybody come here and check out the Ephraim Historical Foundation, because it is amazing.
We'd be happy to have you.
Learn all kinds of good stuff. Anyway, thanks for joining us for another episode of Door County Girl, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then you can meet very interesting characters up here that I am amazed have all this knowledge of where I live, because I am learning stuff all the time, and I've been here all my life. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. I'm so happy to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for watching Door County Girl. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.